Today for Devotions with Daniella, we are reading Generation Hope, How Inclusive Economics Can Help Us All Thrive by Aaron J. Catacomb. I'm reading this for my own practice of deconstructing all the bad stuff, and if you want to follow along with me, you can get copies attached here. This is a chapter called Flaws of the System. The thing is, innovation has happened everywhere, not just in technology. In the 1990s, just as the internet really caught on, and before we knew what Web 2.0 would become, a new form of finance that entered the scene. In the 1980s, neoliberalism went global. Driven by international finance, neoliberalism connected the big financial capital cities around the world: New York, London, Singapore, Mumbai, Shanghai, to ensure that a common set of policies would be pursued by as many countries across the globe as possible. This coincided with markets opening up and satellite televisions becoming available in emerging markets, infecting those watching with the consumeristic need for more. During this period, those in control of international finance capital increased their dominance, supported by governments legitimating their norms and ideas. The outcome of international finance is cyclical. The centralization of capital continues, which in turn reinforces the influence of those in control of it. More recently, journalist and activist George Monbiot tells us, it has played a major role in a remarkable variety of crises: the financial meltdown of 2007 to 2008, the offshoring of wealth and power, of which the Panama Papers and Pandora Papers offer us merely a glimpse, the slow collapse of public health and education, the resurgence of child poverty, the epidemic of loneliness, the collapse of wildlife ecosystems, and the rise of Donald Trump. But innovation wasn't all down to the private sector either. In fact, so much of what we have today can be traced to government funding, primarily from Uncle Sam, spurring the development of everything from the internet to the technologies at the heart of smartphones, including microprocessors, memories, LCD, lithium-ion batteries, GPS chips, and artificial intelligence. Regulations played their part too. For example, to avoid having all kinds of spurious medications on the market, pharmaceutical companies in the US need approval from the Food and Drug Administration before they can sell their medicines. Financial services have similar constraints. If banks were not regulated, we'd be inundated with Ponzi schemes. In fact, regulations were created in response to those kind of abuses in the first place, to protect citizens. However, so much has changed in the past 3 decades that existing regulations have not sufficed, and new regulations haven't kept pace, all while deregulation caused further damage. What neoliberalism forgot is that vital national services cannot be allowed to collapse, which means that competition cannot run its course and that capitalism cannot run unchecked, at least in certain industries. Such industries such as banks, railways, and airlines are too big to fail. The entire economy depends on these companies. Allowing them to collapse would cause economic downturns with dire effects on the working and middle class populations, more so than using those populations to fund subsidies and rescues. Examples of this include taxpayer-funded subsidies or bailouts made popular during the 2007-2008 global financial crisis and revisited during the 2020 to 2022 pandemic. As a result, the capitalism that shaped the course of the world, that drove innovation, created products and services for the good of society, reduced poverty, increased the standard of living, and made a modest profit along the way, is dead. Today's system is all about businesses raking in mega profits, while taxpayers are handed the risks and losses.